back and say, hey, look, Leo, you got $1 million worth of roof and siding damage from hail, a $50,000 deductible. It might be time to roll the dice. And then after we get through the policy, make sure there's not some exclusion or endorsement in there that's going to screw us or screw you. Then we go ahead and say, hey, let's fire away. Now, to date, let me see if I can share real quick. All right. Give me just a sec, guys. You guys see my screen okay? Anyone?
Yeah,
I
we
see
can
it. Yeah,
see
it's
it.
coming through. We got it
Yes,
right
we can
now.
Okay,
see it.
cool. I'm a real validation guy, so let me boil in here. Sorry, I was in this system earlier. Focused on a particular area. All right, so here's our footprint. I have 2,500 assets from owners that we protect. So when you see this big number, like I'm in Dayton, Ohio, go Bucks, right? So 511 in the Cincinnati Dayton area, blah, blah, blah. But every one of these white pins with the blue dot represents an asset, right? So let's just zoom into Texas. That'll make sense. Most of you guys are in Texas, I'm assuming. Oh, hell, we got a storm date up here right now. So in 4-2 of 25, right? See all these blue dots, they all represent an asset. So we have been to these assets, we have inspected them, pre-inspected them, and we're just waiting for the shoe to drop, right? So here's a storm. It's a little unfortunate. Look at that 2.75-inch hail ripped right through here. That's a swath. If that had come through here, I wouldn't be talking to you. It would be Seth. I would be in British Virgin Islands fishing. But that swath comes through here, it hits this, we know about it, right? So that's significant hail. It happens in Texas all the time. But my point being, so we would store your assets in here, we get the notification, we come back and we reinspect. And a lot of times, it's a near miss. It's up here, it's down here. But we still go and inspect. Here's why. I don't want the insurance company to have that arrow in their quiver, whether it's legit or not. So I might inspect a property 4 times before it actually gets blitzed. But when it does, it allows me to settle the claim in, a tenth of the time it would normally take. Who on this call has been involved in a claim where it didn't turn out the way you thought it would, or it was a major pain in the ass and they thought you screwed you over?
I have
Who said that?
Dustin.
All right, Dustin. Are you in Texas as well?
Yeah, Fort Worth, Dallas area.
All right. What kind of crap did they lay on you?
Just it was an older asset, and so they had stated that it was prior damage and all that. So
Yeah, old damage is a big one. Failure to report in time, which we alleviate. Sometimes they'll say manufacturer's defects or past its useful life or no physical loss. All that crap is not in their policy. Okay, um, we will analyze your policy before we make any recommendation on a claim. So we'll have you obtain a full PDF copy of your policy. We'll read the whole policy, all the exclusions, endorsements, make sure there's not some loophole in there. And then we come back to you, Dustin, and we'll say, hey, look, man, they're over a barrel. They got nothing in the policy because they'll throw nonsense out. 98% of the time, people will fold, they'll throw in the towel. Was that, oh, well, I just got a good bad policy. That's not the way to do it. I mean, you pay a premium. So your policy is a contract. So when you pay the premium and everybody agrees to the terms of that, which is they produce it, you sign it, everybody's bound to the terms in the contract. So if you understand the contract, you can fight for your rights. And we do all of that. So look, if it's a loser, I'm not going to bring it to you. We settle over 98% of the claims that we recommend our clients share. Okay. So we're not out here throwing darts at a board like a storm restoration company. Can you guys see my screen again?
Sure can.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Hey, Johnny, is this a veteran thing or just a we love Johnny thing?
No, more of a we love real estate thing. Yeah, so we have people all over, with from the community. Some of my clients, and some just other real estate investors that are really, looking to level up, mastermind, connect with other investors, and of course, get
Gotcha.
educated on services that are out here that can help our lives become a lot easier.
Very cool. Well, I'm not going to go too long on this. So, we go out, we do these reports. So we'll inspect initially, right? You say, hey, Ian says, Mark, I got 4 properties. We'll go inspect them. Oh, and by the way, I'm just going to leave with this right now. We charge nothing. All my services are free. Your give is when you have a claim, I get to settle it, which you want me to. And then once we settle it, we bring in an iStorm certified general contractor to do the work. And then you'd simply turn over the proceeds from the claim and we do all the work in the settlement. So this is all free. So we do the baselines, we do the risk management, which is a policy evaluation and so forth. We're not in 40 states, we're in 42. Uh, we're not at 200 million, we're over 300 million. So these stats are a little dank, but the reality is we settle over 98% of what we enter into. So we're not going to whiff. Okay. I'm contingent, right? If I don't have legitimate damage, right? So look at this storm over here, right? Passes through this territory. Oh, we got one over there, Seth, we need to look at the bottom of Fort Worth. But this storm passes through and misses this stuff. There's no reason for me to go here. But I got to go here, even though it was kind of close. And it's because I got to rule out the date. Do I go to these 5 properties and think, oh, we're going to find storm damage? No. But I got to rule them out because they're close enough. Does that make sense? Rule them out because old damage. Ian said it. He got hosed on a claim because of his old damage. And in Texas, I mean, there's a lot of storms. This year was actually particularly bad because they started in like February, which is unusual. You normally don't see the activity until late March, early April. Um, so that's kind of the mantra. It's not real complicated. We don't charge. We'll go inspect your assets. We'll put this report together. I guess, hey, Johnny, how long is this webinar?
Yeah, we normally you got till around 8:45, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Okay, you know what?
A
I'm
little
just
bit
going to
sooner.
pull. That's fine. I'm going to pull up a report real quick so you guys can see what that looks like. Ugh. Thanks for your patience as I go through this. I should have had it up earlier. Samples. This would be much more efficient if my son Seth was doing this, but okay, I'm going to pull up a post-storm report. So we have what we call baseline, and that's our first look at the property. And we have what we call a post-storm report, which is our second look, meaning we've got a baseline and we're going back because we had some indication there was damage. And then we have one called a due diligence, which is very much like a baseline. So if you're buying an asset, you get your OEM, you get your offering memorandum. You've accepted the deal, you've agreed to a price, and you're going into due diligence. Call us. We'll go do the inspection, and we'll give you all the information I'm getting ready to show you. And we don't charge. The key to that due diligence inspection is that if you have some sort of wind or hail related damages, you can go back to the seller and say, hey, man, I got a $500,000 worth of roof and siding damage. You're gonna have to negotiate, discount your purchase price, or you can file a claim and do an assignment of benefits at the closing table. So they get to keep their price. And then we go settle your claim and get you all new, whatever it is, right? So here's the report. This was a post storm. So you can see here the inspection date. We did a baseline on 5/22 of 2018. Nothing happened for 4 years. And then something happened. And we went back on 3/14 of 22. So we leave the baseline conditions in this report in black. And then we put that's why I didn't show you a baseline, because it's just a baseline. And then we put the changes in red, right? So, and it goes through the exterior, the siding, the roof systems, cupolas, carports, decking, flashing leaks, electrical, gutters, downspouts, windows, window wraps, entry doors, screens. I mean, we look at everything exterior. And we're going to tell you what's the condition of it, what's it made of, what's its useful life. So sometimes we get on baseline and say, hey, man, your foundation's sinking. It has nothing to do with storm damage, but you need to do something about it, right? Then we come down here and we do our assessment. Look, was there hail? Was there wind? Well, when we looked at it the first time, no. Looked at it the second time, yeah, it's hammered. So that means we think there's a claim. Then we come down to this page and we say, look, if you go to claim, right, insurance indemnification, we think these items will be replaced. Now, what we don't put in the report is what we think the dollar value of this replacement is. And that's for a reason, because if I got to turn this report into the carrier, I don't want to set the bar on some particular number. But we might come back and say, look, Johnny, you got, it's $750,000 loss. And that's fine, but I don't want them to cap the reserve at that, because after we do the hard grind with the adjuster, it could go up. So I don't want to be capped. And that's kind of it. And then we put all the photos, supporting photos in the report. Now we also have a link up top. So this link will open an internal system. And if you want to look at 400 photos, help yourself. Click on the link, you got them. But we put the representative photos right in the report. So you get a PDF, you can look at it and say, okay. Generally, when we have something that's damaged, we'll say, hey, look, let's get on a Zoom call. We want to walk you through this. Because it takes evaluation. You don't want to file frivolous claims. That's the last thing I want to do. We all have a loss run. We know it affects our premiums, but it doesn't really matter. Your premiums are going up regardless of whether you file. That's just the new insurance game, right? So, and speaking of that, if a storm comes through and you got stuff down in Austin, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to go that way. But you get stuff down in Austin, a storm goes through and hammers everything, but your property doesn't get hit, doesn't matter. They're going to apply an increase over the territory to all insured in that area. Does that make sense? You need it back from one guy. Ian, when you had your claim, did your rates go up?
Yeah, I think Dustin he dropped in the chat that he had to dial out.
Okay, no worries. All right. Well, that's
But I'll
kind of
tell you
it.
from experience, with our hurricane damage and, being in the area in Panama City, Florida, when Hurricane Michael, which was a Category 5 hurricane, hit October 10th, 2018, that devastated the entire area. And the very first apartment complex that I purchased had hurricane damage. And it was a nightmare for the owners, who were two mom and pop owners that also were business owners in town. Contractor ran off with insurance money. Uh, they
Yeah,
had four. They had one complex that were still down to the studs that hadn't been repaired, and so they were motivated just to be done with it. But kind of like what you were sharing, Mark, I was able to take assumption of benefits. I had met an attorney who was a real estate investor at the local morning meetup kind of like we're doing right now, kind of cross talking. And one of the guys there was an attorney, and he shared his strategy and how he was doing an assumption of benefits in order to take over existing claims with the property he was buying, because we had thousands of dilapidated houses everywhere. And I took that strategy, and my attorney drew up a one-page assignment of benefits, and they assigned the benefits over from the policy. We ended up getting 40K uh, for renovations and another 10K of lost rents that came with the insurance claim. Just by knowing that one strategy, that one piece of paper brought in another 50K, which it took a whole nother year to get that, because there was a whole mess that happened with the claim, and they didn't
Yeah.
get pictures, they didn't get the adjuster out before they started demo and tearing stuff out, and so there was a lot of back and forth, but it was worth the pain. So, like you said, a lot of that is real. And the thing is, you want to have marked services, you want to have that baseline report to hand over to the insurance company, because if not, you're fighting at a disadvantage.
Oh, it's huge, and we're pretty vast. So, we've settled over $300 million in claims through the end of 2024. We have over 95% claims success rate. So we don't throw trash on the wall, and we get it done. Now, I don't care if it's one round, two rounds. That's what I like. But as the resistance comes up, it's been getting more to, 6 rounds, 8 rounds, 12 rounds. But at the end of the day, I mean, I just had one, uh, 60 days ago or so. So they offered us $72,000 on a hail claim in Springfield, Ohio, on a 26 building property, hail damage to aluminum siding. And we won the award through the appraisal process at 2.363 million. It took almost 3 years, but there was no danger. There was no water intrusion. And my client, whom I've had since 2012, understood all of this. So we just waited it out and fought the battle. The big thing is the insurance companies are trying to get people to throw in the towel. It's too frustrating. I don't want to deal with the headache, blah, 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 blah. Don't. Well, let's deal with it. We don't care. We'll run them out to the ends of the earth. When I settle a large loss claim, people say, "Oh, you're getting paid." I'm like, "Nah, just put another notch in my belt." You know, basically beating up State Farm. When I say that, I mean making them do what they're obligated to do within their policy. Does that make sense? I mean, look, we all like to shake hands and think everybody's going to do the right thing, and they don't. So when I'm looking at this, you guys see this map? So there's Panama City right there. Beautiful. Been there 100 times. I'm a Navy vet, so I lived in Pensacola for.
See, yeah, I think you're sharing your screen anymore.
Oh, I'm not. Oh, my bad. Let me go back to Zoom. How do I do that?
Yeah, I think you may have to hit share again.
Oops.
Yep,
How
there
about
it is.
now?
It's coming up. Yep,
There
we
we
can see
go.
that. We see the map.
Yeah. There you were, Panama. There I was. I played some golf over there at Panama City, but yeah, I was short base naval aviation right there. Actually lived in Morrington. The base was on right there on Gulf Breeze. But that panhandle gets the hell beat out of it. Everything seems to go right into that bowl, right? From New Orleans over, and that's all the hurricane stuff. That stuff's devastating. People lose houses. I don't like human suffering. I'd rather just go on over into Dallas where they're getting smacked by hail and take care of that stuff versus having people's, you know, whole livelihood wash out to sea. But anyways, well,
Yeah.
so, it's really easy to connect with us. Basically, what we would do is work with you to get a list of all your assets. We will go out and inspect them all within a reasonable time frame. We'll get the reports together. We'll send you the reports. Of course, sometimes when we go out on the first pass, we'll find pre-existing damage. So we use different proprietary weather tracking systems like this one I showed you earlier. I can just plug in the address and do an impact report, and it'll tell me, hey, look, here's so if I wanted to know about this property here, I would just go in and say, have we had any hail on this thing in the last 2 years? And once we've got the baseline, I don't care about the last 2 years. I just care about what happens. And then we get notified. All right, so this property, actually, Seth, we need to go inspect this. It got smacked on 9/3 of 2025 with 1.5-inch hail. If I click on that, I can go in here and dive into. That's the other thing too. Sometimes I'll have clients with multiple assets in the same territory. And if they're all on the same policy, I can tie multiple assets into the same claim and then pay one deductible. Here you go, Wichita right here. So this property we have in Wichita, oh, it got hammered. So that's 1.75-inch hail, 2.75-inch hail. I mean, this storm, that's ripping, man. That's like blowing windows out and stuff. So we get this notification, we would hustle right out there to Wichita and do that reinspection. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And it's not always there. Sometimes you go there and, with all the technology in the world, nothing happened. It might be 5 miles down the road. I've actually had assets that are so large, it's like a small community block. And you get halfway through the asset and, maybe 40 buildings, and half of it didn't get hit because the storm always has to stop somewhere, right? And then it's like an anomaly. You're like, wow, that's crazy. But it is what it is. So, all right, let's do some Q&A because what are we? We're at 8:30.
We're doing good on time. I think one of the questions that come to mind for those that may be starting out building their portfolios and maybe not at a level yet to use your services, what would be some recommendations or maybe some things that maybe document baseline for like a single family home for their first rental property?
Well, here's the thing. If you're going to buy something, get a hold of us. We'll do the due diligence inspection. Period. You're going to pay a roofer, you're going to pay a siding guy, you're going to pay an electrician. If it's on the outside of the property, we'll do all of it. Now, can I give you a quote for window replacement? Probably. Would you prefer to get something locally in that territory if I don't have that? Sure. But it doesn't matter. We're going to tell you, hey, you got old metal windows and the seals are popped and there's condensation in the double pane. You need to replace your windows. You can take it from there. But we'll go and we'll evaluate the entire exterior and the perimeter. We're not going to tell you whether your furnace is legit or any of that stuff, but that would be my recommendation. Just call us, and hey, if you tell me you got a single family home in Fargo, North Dakota, and I don't have any GC representation out there, I'm going to probably say, sorry, dude. But if you call me and say, hey, I got, this duplex in Dallas, we can help you. But there's nothing wrong with making a phone call. It can save you some money. And if we can do it, we'll do it.
Most definitely. And then drop your guys' website or somebody from the team drop your website and contact information and email in the chat, and we'll make sure we get that out too, and like to the email and with the recording, because I think this is extremely critical because you don't know you need it until you need it, and going into a battle with the insurance company unprepared is not where you want to be as an investor, as an owner.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I had a guy one time and he was analyzing our services and he says, hey, he goes, I'll call you when I need you. I said, when you need me, it's going to be too late. we have, trust me on this, we have settled multiple claims where we didn't have a baseline. We're very good at it. But when I have the baseline, what it does, it condenses your timeline from 8 to 12 months down to 60 days, right? Because I can go into an adjuster and go, hey, look, man, I got pre and post. Do you want to write the estimate or do you want me to write it? Because we're really not going to have a debate about whether it occurred on this date and whether we have the evidence to support that. So, because all the owners really want to do, Johnny, at any point in time, is just get the property pre-loss operating condition,
Right.
especially with wind, right? Somebody rolls up to your asset and they're thinking about renting there, and there's shingles on the ground, or maybe they're just missing, or there's tarps. They're thinking it's kind of a piece of crap. If this is what they do with the exterior, we're doing with the interior, right? And we're all vying for the residents, right? I need tenant, I need
Yep.
butts in the seat, I need to be 90% occupancy or better to make all of this roll. And if your property footprint is not appealing, so when you have a storm, it's like, let's get it back to appealing. Is as appealing as it can be for its current, but people expect people to take care of their stuff, right? And on rent here, I'll go down the road and I got this beautiful exterior, hardy board, the roofs are intact. I'm kind of going to think better about that one. Does that make sense? So that timeline to conclusion can be greatly affected with the methods we put in place. Otherwise, you're going to get in the battle, and it's gotten worse. It started in 2023. It's like, holy crap. They just put the brakes on. They got hammered in 23, end of 23, being the carriers, lots of storms. And so what they do is they raise everybody's rates, regardless of whether you filed a claim, and then they stop paying until they get their money back, and they don't care. So this whole State Farm, like a good neighbor, $5 billion a year in advertising, Patrick Mahomes and the little guy in the red shirt, that's all crap. It's a loss leader to get you to seriously, like a good neighbor. And the American public believes it. And then they buy the least expensive policy, which is State Farm. And then when the shoe drops, they hammer them and they go, what happened to me? I thought I was a good neighbor. Well, if your neighbor has a Great Dane and it's crapping in your yard, that's the State Farm motto. I'm not a fan of the what's been prepared and what they deliver. You take like Travelers Insurance or Chubb or USAA. This is kind of a sell. You should look at this. If you don't have one of those three on your personal home, call them. And even if you pay a little more, because when the shoe drops, they're not going to be a pain in the ass. They're going to come, they're going to take care of it. They probably take care of more than you thought you needed to be taken care of. Hey, well, my roof's messed up. Well, so are your gutters, and you have some rose bushes. I mean, they're
Yep.
crazy good. But they understand the idea of keeping your premium for 20 years, right? There's certain companies that don't do that. So, um, all I'm telling you is that the enemy's out there in force, and they are out there to make money, and it's not for you, whether it's your personal home or your lake house or your car or your multifamily property. They're not out there. They're out there delay, deny, and reject. They got the premiums, they're invested somewhere, and they're making more money in that market than they are paying out your claim. It's gotten really, really bad. I've been in this. I started in 2011. I got to tell you, the last 2 years, I don't have a lot of gray, but there's some, right? A little bit. That's all the last 3 years. I just, it's unbelievable. We've just had to up our game, and at least we pride ourselves on the idea that we're going to stay. We know what their denial mechanisms are, so we try to remove those up front. If we can't remove them up front, we have all the rebuttal techniques and codes and laws and ordinances and all that ammunition. It's in our backpack. So we can get it done. We can't always get it done. I met guys that are like, hey, can you come get this done? I heard you're great at this. I said, I have no idea. I got to get on the property, see your policy, then I'll give you a transparent answer. And I've had to call guys back and say, dude, you're screwed. This, that, or the other. We can't do it. And if I can't do it, nobody can do it. So that's kind of the deal. What other
All right.
questions we got?
Yeah, I was gonna open it up for any other questions. I see Dr. Joe, did you have a question?
You asked it with the first one, but I also have a second one. Since Mark just mentioned that, do you do any pre-purchase consultation as far as looking at policies? If we're thinking about making a purchase and trying to decide on an insurer, uh, do you do consultations for as what you think? We review a policy before we purchase a policy?
Absolutely, Joel. We'll do anything to help you out. Are you familiar with the Rotary? Like
No.
all the Rotaries across the country? What is it? Service first, right? So we can help you, we will help you. We won't charge you a penny.
Okay.
So if you got something you're looking at, you want a policy looked at, you just ship it. I just put my email into the chat link. I've got Seth on the phone this morning. Ethan's traveling. Um, I don't see Liz. But anyways, my team will get back to you. We'll help you out any way we can.
Great.
So that's a big fat yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, 178 page policy. Let me tell you about a policy. It is purpose confusing. All right. But when you have people that know what to look for, we can motor through all that. I don't care about terrorism. I'm pretty certain I'm in Dayton, Ohio. Some terrorist's not going to run a bomb up my front stoop. But um, all the stuff that's important, we can analyze that and give it back to you in layman's terms. Uh, so hell, even if you're just shopping for insurance on an asset you acquired, but I'm telling you, don't acquire an asset without letting us look at it. Because here's what's happened, right? So we do. So a guy gets offering memorandum, blah blah blah. We go out in the due diligence period. We found damages, right? I found $750,000 in damage on a property in southeast Georgia. It's wind and hail. He went back to the seller, the owner, and said, "Hey, man, I got, I'm staring down the barrel of $750,000. I don't want to ask you for a discount, but are you willing to file a claim and do an assignment of benefits at the closing table?" He said, "Yeah, I'll do that." Hell, he's dropping the property. It's not going to affect his loss run or any of his other assets. So he does that. And of course, my client calls me and goes, "Mark, you better sell this claim," because he's conceded the damages. And we did. We settled it and ended up being closer to 900,000. So you got all new roofs and all new siding. Seller walked away with what they wanted. My client, the purchaser, got all new stuff. But the worst part of that would be if you didn't do it and your new insurance company wrote your policy, they could always go back to the date of loss that caused that damage and hammer you with the old damage. That's the issue. What arrows are we putting in the quiver of the insurance company to not treat us fair, reasonable, legitimate? And that's all we do. I mean, that's really a big thing. So, look, play by the rules. We're happy to help. So, what was your second
Yeah,
part?
no, great.
Did I hear you say you recommend like Travelers and USA over the traditional state farms and all state those type of insurance?
Well, unofficially, I'll give you some answers. So, first of all, you're talking about your personal home.
Both.
Okay. If it's personal and you're a veteran and you don't use USAA, you should. They're going to be extremely competitive, and man, are they going to take care of you when the shoe drops, period. Uh, if you're not military, some of the really good personal carriers are Westfield. Chubb is fantastic. They're generally going to be more expensive because they do a lot of high worth, interior contents, jewelry, Picasso's, all that kind of shit. But at the end of the day, if there's a claim that drops, they're going to pay it and they're not going to give you any grief. Traveler's very good. When you get into multifamily, I like Travelers. Chubb doesn't do a lot. USAA does nothing. Um, it's easier for me to tell you what not to do than it is to what to do. Okay. And you didn't hear this here. State Farm, run the other way. Auto owners, run the other way. State Auto, run the other way. These are all loss leaders, and they will beat the shit out of you when you file a claim. Now, if you have us, they lose, but it will take a while. But if you come to me and say, hey, I got Travelers or I got Westfield or something like that, I'll be like, awesome. And then the other thing is, if you want assistance in evaluating a policy on a property, Ethan at istormgroup.com. This is no charge. This is my other son. He worked for an independent broker in Chicago for 2.5 years. Now he works for me. And I just put his email into the chat. Ethan, everybody's somebody at istormgroup.com. So Ethan does all of our risk management evaluation. So Joel, if you need some assistance on that, certainly copy me, but send it to Ethan. What do you think?
Will do. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what he used to do full time. Now he just does a lot for us. But one thing she does is all our policy evaluations. So if you have an existing policy in a property, he'll go through it. If you're looking to access a property, and then we don't sell insurance. We don't want any piece of that, but we have independent brokers that we can recommend you to based on where your asset is and what what type of asset and what geography, and we can recommend you to people that we know and trust. And the brokers that we find, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, a broker that's not going to side with you or that's going to side with you versus over the carrier, because their commissions come from the carriers. So finding those guys is definitely a needle in a haystack. And we probably got about 6 or 7 across the country. You would think we would have more with 2,500 assets in 42 states. We don't. Because when the shoe drops, you find out their true colors. And it's an abomination.
Yeah, Mark, I'll take you up on that one. I'm actually I think we renew like the first week of November for my Panama City multifamily.
First of all, I want to get down to Panama City anyway, so I would handle that inspection personally so I could go back to Pensacola and see the old stomping grounds. I
For
lived
sure,
in
for sure. Looks like Lydia has her hand raised. Go ahead. Good morning, Lydia. You can ask your question.
I don't see her.
Yeah, we can't
Yes,
hear
I
you.
am here. Where
Oh,
you
there she is.
for me?
There she is.
Yes. Hey, Johnny. Yes. Hi, sir. I have a question. So you just said Travelers is better than State Farm. Yeah, I know officially you didn't say that. Unofficially. Now, so yes. Um, so is there a insurance company that you will recommend for a smaller single family house versus a larger one?
Do you have a small single family home and you're asking me my opinion on a carrier that might be applicable?
Better, yeah.
Okay. So are you or any of your parents or grandparents veterans?
My son is a veteran and he's planning to buy a house in Las Vegas in 2026.
Okay.
In
There,
2026, but we are not veterans.
if you have veteran lineage, okay, so for your son, tell him to call USAA, and that's the only call he needs to make. Don't ask any further questions. He will get a competitive price. Don't price shop it. I'm telling you, when you price shop, you get hammered. So if you're looking for a single family home, is it a rental or a personal? Primary residence or
And we have personal. We have rentals and we have personal.
okay. Well, if you got both, I I like Westfield a lot
Okay.
for residential if they service your area. Westfield Insurance Company. They're legit. They're reasonably priced. I like Travelers. I like Travelers across the board because
Okay.
Travelers won't. They're just. It's I carry now automobile, boats, that kind of stuff. That's a different animal. But as far as properties are concerned, um, Westfield's very good. Chubb's very good. Um, I want to say Cutie's pretty decent. I don't have my chart. When we hit $100 million in claims settled, we evaluated the top 25 carriers that made up that, and we evaluated them across 11 categories. And, there's like your top six, there's your middle six, and there's your bottom six, and then there's 40 feet of crap, and then there's State Farm. So if you take nothing away from this, read between the lines. But Acuity, Travelers, Westfield, Chubb, those are all up in your upper echelon because they're guys who will honor their contract, which is your policy. And if they cost a little more, so be it. I'm trust me on this. I had somebody come to me, you got all these kids and cars, and I said, "Oh, we can reduce your rate." I said, "I ain't going anywhere." I've had Progressive on my automobiles for 8 years, and they just keep ratcheting my rates down. But every time something has happened, they've been Johnny on the spot. And that's really what I'm paying for. I'm not paying for the headache. I'm paying for the fact that they're just going to take care of stuff, and I'm not going to have a horrible experience. I'm not going to be drugged through the woods, through the weeds. I don't want any of that. That's for me, though. If you don't want the hassles, then go ahead and pay a little more. But
I
it's the
just
same old
put,
story.
sorry. I just put the insurance companies in the chat. Did I spell that right?
Westfield, uh, no, you did not. So let
Oh
me
gosh,
see.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. You got Westfield. The second one is Chubb.
Oh, Chubb. Okay.
Yeah. And then Acuity. And I don't know what the last
I
it
put
says.
USA ID. No, you said something
Oh,
else there.
USAA. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
USAA. Okay.
No, that's the dude. Your son goes, he's got one call. Boom,
Okay,
done.
perfect.
There you go. So you got Chubb, Acuity, USAA. The only one you got right was Westfield.
Okay. And progressive you are recommending for cars then.
Hey,
Perfect.
look, you can't hold me to this
I
in a court
know.
of law. In a court of law, I'm just giving you offline
Yeah.
information. But based on my experience,
Yeah.
there's your deal right there. Now that's not all multifamily, right? If you're going to do multifamily, I'm going to put other names up there. Westfield does multifamily. Chubb does commercial. They don't do multifamily. Acuity does multifamily. USAA does not. And then I'm just going to tell you that if you're going multifamily, I actually had to call Chubb and see if I can get an insurance license, or not Chubb. Um, a license and sell this stuff, but uh, Travelers they've just been wonderful. I have just not. They're my least headache ever, and they don't always agree or just lay down or whatever, but they're always reasonable. They're timely. That's the other thing. And they play in this delay, deny, and reject game. They don't do that. They come in, there's a loss. They want to get to the bottom of it. They want to reach an amicable agreement, and they want to do it in a reasonable time frame. And that's all I can ask. I get it. You don't want to. Somebody says, "Hey, I had $1 million loss," and they think it's 700,000. Well, let's just agree on 850 and close the book. And that's the kind of company they are. All right, Johnny, we're on the hour, buddy. Any
Yeah,
other
no, this has been
questions?
great. No other questions. I think this has been
I
great
just have
overall
one
with
last question. I'm sorry. I have a fire chief in my town, and he told me that he had insurance, but there was a fine print which said black mold won't be covered, and his house ended up in a swamp. His wife was in the hospital, and the doctor said she has severe allergy to black mold. So they had to demolish the house and rebuild, but the insurance company did not give them a penny because there were three types of black mold that was not covered. So do I ask the agent what all is not covered in my policy, or how do I make sure I know what's not covered?
I gotta tell you something. You just opened like a 30-minute can of worms. So, here, do this. I'm gonna let me get back in the chat. I am hanging up the phone and heading to Columbus, Ohio from Dayton, Ohio. I just stuck my mobile into the chat. Can you see it?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, cool. So what I would recommend you do is call me tomorrow. I've got reasonable availability to the rest of today is cooked. But call me tomorrow and I will give you some insight on that. But that's not a 60-second answer. There's a
Thank you.
lot of elements in that thing. But just give me a holler. I'll give you whatever advice I can. And
Thank you, sir.
oh, for sure. Absolutely. No problem. And any of you, if you just got a question or you just want to get some advice, we don't charge for any of that stuff. Happy to help in any way we can.
Once an insurance attorney read the policy for me, and he told me all the traps, and he charged me like $200 because I had a good relationship with him. So I know that's one solution. But yes, I would like to know about other solutions as well. Yeah.
Look, if they're charging you money, I don't know. We just don't charge for any of that stuff. I mean, look, we're trying to earn the shoe is going to drop. So who are you going to call when the shoe drops? Or who are you going to call to pre-inspect?
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, it's intellectual property for us to
Yeah.
evaluate your policy. That's just not a big deal. And I met Johnny out there in Texas, and he's commenting about my shirt and how good looking I am. We had all this stuff going on. He's a cool guy. He's super intelligent. I mean, we just got along on so many levels. I'm like, I am happy to help your crew. Just let me know what I can do. So we're here to
Yeah,
help.
no,
We're
I
not here.
appreciate it. And then we do have a great football team too. So
Who does? Oh, the Buckeyes?
Roll Tide.
oh man.
Oh man, don't even. Yeah, the tide will get rolled. The tide will get rolled. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll
Unless
see. We'll talk
unless your
about
head is buried in the sand. If you don't know what's coming to town, you'll find out.
Hey,
It's a
Mark,
Hey, we'll see in due time.
one, one, one last question just came up before you leave. When you receive when you receive insurance proceeds, I assume that's considered as revenue. And if we assign those over to you, how does that affect our tax situation? Do we still get taxed for it or pass that?
No, dude, you get your money. All right, let's say you got a loss. It's $1 million, right? And then you spend that $1 million on a renovation. It's just treated as an expense, right? So I would defer to your accountant, but I'm sure it just passes through. You won't pay tax on that money.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
You should
Dr. Joe,
not. You
normally
should
on
not pay tax on that money. It's money in, money out,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, with insurance, it's to make you whole. So you're not paying taxes on a insurance claim because that claim, that amount is tied to the damage to that property. So you may definitely want to get your
Cool.
CPA involved because that's going to probably impact your cost basis and just your depreciation schedule with the new renovations and everything. But yeah, you shouldn't have to pay any taxes on that income that comes in from a claim.
Okay.
Yeah, Joel, I'm not an accountant, but unofficially, yeah, it should have no impact. It's out, it's a pass through. You probably don't even need to ledger it on your books. But um, again, I defer to your accountant, but that's my general off the cuff, and Johnny confirmed it as well. So
Thank you.
And when
sure.
I had a fire damage, when I was doing my taxes, I found out there is a special clause and I filled it. I don't know about federal taxes, but my state taxes went down by $15,000 to $16,000 when I put in everything, what was the damage and how much I paid and everything, how much I got from the insurance company. So it's the clause was adverse something, yeah, adverse something, and then you put that, and then it asks you for all the questions, you answer them 2 years in a row because the construction took 2 years, 2 tax years. I got very good deductions.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's great. And I think today highlights just so you can dive deep in so many different areas when it comes to real estate and, looking at your insurance policies, the claim process, the taxes, the impact to the taxes on the back end once you realize the claim. And so I think yeah, this has been great. I think this is the reason that we have these type of forums. We bring in experts like Mark and his company today to share with us just where we can continue to become informed and educated investors and now operate at an entire higher level. And so whether you're taking on today, you have a project maybe in mind, definitely reach out to Mark if you have something within your portfolio that makes sense with having them baseline for you and come out and doing that baseline inspection, but then also other investors that's in your network, let them know because they may not be informed on just the risk that they're carrying right now. And I know Mark provided the nine, I think it was 9 different categories, checklists that you guys kind of put together that you talk about routinely that provide you guys to give a little bit more insight. So definitely we'll upload that in the school community and provide that to you guys. And he gave all his information as well too. So I encourage you to reach out to Mark. And yeah, and I look forward to maybe having you back here in the future and talking about more of the details and how you guys are crushing it and helping investors continue to protect their wealth, Mark. And with that, I'll give the last words to you before we close out.
All right. Well, two things. First and foremost, thank you. Secondly, any of you, feel free to reach out. I can guarantee you that if you dial my phone and I do not pick up, I'm probably with an adjuster or an engineer or an existing client, but I will call you back and promptly. That's first and foremost. We can help with anything. Happy to give advice. That's part of what we do. It's service first, right? Rotary. And then lastly, if we do a follow-up, Johnny, we're going to do craziest losses I've ever seen. And I'll do a photo to display. I mean, I got some stories. 300 million cars through bill and just crazy stuff. Be kind of fun, but we can tie some business into it. So appreciate everybody's time. Johnny, I appreciate you having me. And it's all out there. And Johnny, did I send you those 9 critical elements?
Send it to me again. I think so.
Okay,
It's a one
I'll
pager.
send it to
I
you if
think
you
it's a
can
one
put it out
pager.
to the team. Good. Guys, this is stuff I talked about. You don't have to have me for this. It's just stuff you should strongly consider and understand what could come down the road if you have a significant loss. But yeah, so I'll send that over to you.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'll share it in the community. Well, awesome. Well, that's it for today's $1 million coffee hour. Definitely thank to Mark and big thanks to Mark and his team for sharing with us. And we'll see you guys next week. Let's go. Let's make some equity happen.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Have
you.
a good one.
All righty, bye-bye.